So this is the soda, the milk. What is the milk? The milk is the smashing down, or the mashing down of the soda of the nook. Let's see what it means. So we're going to read. We're going to read on number Kaf Zayin. We could read on the bottom. So he said, "V'hinei kan chozek around the blair as hatikun arishon shal klicha yisod the nook." We're going to talk about the first tikun of the klicha yisod of the nook. And he said, which we said is her nai. It doesn't say exactly how the milk works, but you do have something very powerful coming in to the nukva. Milvada tikun and the asach beer rishona. There's something else that happens besides the beer rishona, the shadi, which ashuhu shachas arucha, which is the shadi of the rucha begaval. So now, let's keep reading, and we'll come back to the shefa. So he says, number Kaf Ches. 1 second. Number Kaf Ches, B'man Rishonim, at the time of the Rishonim, Hoyim Otzian the Besulos Leaves B'Hoyim Ma'akim B'Yad, and they would smash it down with their fingers. V'Atam Choyu Kadei Shegam Habir Rishona Lo Tihiyah LeBetola. And this tikkun is made by the fingers. Now we're using this word fingers, or the hands, which have fingers on it, to refer to the nai of Ima. So in this bar Gemara, so the Gemara explains like this: should be made kedim in the old days. They want to get pregnant right away. Hanashim bebeis Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Apparently, this must be Gemara someplace. So that's for the Sorach for this real miyaku v'hotzia as belusechem be'etz belusechem, and they're able to. The word is bring out. So hotzia, remove the besula be'etz be'echem with their fingers. Masharotza lehisava be'bir rishona. That idea. Hoy be'kadesh achatipos de'bir rishona lo yelchu lebetala. Because that's also a result of this. That actually there's an emission there, and as a result of that, it would go to you can't become pregnant. Be is aver miyad, so that there could become immediately misaver. It would be a rishona. So he explains because the Indian who to be a rishona ba'ana matachton, that is talking about us. Osa shnei peulos, it does two different things. What are they? Ha'achasu tikun klicha yisod the nook. One is the tikun of the kli, v'chasheni v'biyah zu knows in mabal b'ishto as bechinas arucha. So met the rucha. What the rucha was, he says, is the 5 gevuros are placed inside of her. That's the rucha. I was just thinking, why do they call this a rucha? I guess because it's come from zeranpin, which is lashon ruach. I'm not sure what it's called exactly. What is the quality that makes it a rucha? So nimsa shakota bia ikris, so that it comes out like this. And before you get to the root bia, that is the bia loholeda, because that's the ultimate thing we want is to reproduce. Shihab bia shnia, which is the second bia. Tzark laso shtei tikunim beisha. So there now look, there's 2 different tikunim you have to make. Echad desakan is klicha yisoda. One is to make a tikun in her yisod. Vashentu that says biyisoda chasarucha, and the second one is that. So he says the first part doesn't really have to be made by the male in the Bil Rishona. So that we say this, they were able to, they pushed it down, they mashed it down, and molded it, I guess, or whatever. They pushed it to the side, or made an opening there. So here you're actually making a tikkun in the kli, od, kodev abiyah rishona, before the first biyah. So that it be possible to become immediately impregnated, the biyah rishona. But the Indian, the tikkun, the nesidus of rucha shachadayim lo naasa. So he says, and in the Indian, the nesidus of rucha shachadayim lo naasa is still not done. V'im kain, if that's the case, his aver ayin shefach levanos. He's going to talk about that over here. Get a little bit of drink here. Okay. So he writes like this in the Shefa. We're going to move over to the Shefa. We'll take a look at that. Says, so the Shefa says, quoting a number Kaf Daled, quoting, is it Kaf Daled? Kaf Daled, yeah. V'hoy misaktim b'kli sheba be'etzba kadesh is aver gam b'bir rishon. Ziv rebbeinu tzarich beer. Well, let's talk about it. He says, v'halon is bar l'tzorach ziv gomor lo leida tzarich los no shnei tikunim. Tikun kli yisod denuk v'kein b'sindas rucha b'bir rishona. V'yidach ba'adam atachton. Now talking about human beings. Shtei tikunim na'asa al yidach b'bir rishona v'heim natikun desi is kli. Behind Shehi Besulo, Pischa Sagor, and her opening is closed. V'agidei Habia Rishona Niftach Pischa, then that opens up. V'hein hatikun Hasheni Shenois, and the Baal Beishto. So this is the second tikun that the Baal makes in his wife, as Harucha B'Bir Rishona that comes in. The so you have to question how it is that it helps to be able to milk the Besulos. Be'etzba the osa benashim the grown sheyuchlu kavar the his avid bebir rishona. The Bishlomo esa tikun the rishon the betoich piska shafer yuchol the rasbos ba'atzma. So that would work, of course. But when you talk about that, but then it doesn't help. Why not? So why not? There is an opening, and you could go there. So how does miach help you alone? Because first you have to have this. This will not help you to actually become impregnated, the woman actually become impregnated, because you need to have before pregnancy, you have to have this ruach d'shati begavel. So he just says it like that. So he says in Shaar Taz, Perik Hey, he says over there, because of the parts of ARI. Now, this he says something maybe I don't know. Ein noeg inyan bia rishona v'shniya. They're in ARI, right? And where are we at now? Here we're talking about the bia rishona of Zun. So he said, but let's talk about ARI. So he says, ein noeg inyan bia rishona v'shniya. So it is possible in ARI. So riach is what? Atzilus. Behind it be a rishona nimshak, but the silus of the upper of the most benevolent aspect. Behind it should be a rishona nimshakim bo as bechidas arucha. So we stand into her this aspect of the rucha. Vehin hatipa shal havlad, which is the tip of the vlad. So now you could settle this problem. Shekol eder anashim shemitzida shenis amdracha v'bia rishona. Who machbish hoya zivuga bebechinas rich. Now, I think that by itself needs we understand saying the same thing. Ubezera bepirit besefer emes the Yaakov. In other words, not in Zachar v'Nog, but in Arich. So Rich and Nog, I don't know. So he says this is the Merachas Eitz Chaim. He says Os Ayin, etc. Masha Ambrach is what he says of in the Gemara, called Mu'achas shall base Rebbe Tamar Shema. Now, this is very interesting. Tamar is two times, see this in the Kriya Shema Lamita, that Tamar is two times the number 320. So you can imagine what, I guess, you would say about Yehuda, Yehuda, his relationship was with his daughter-in-law, Tamar, who's a double 320, which is lashon two times din. Shekain Yedua, that we know that the Rich hu bebechinas Tamar. Now, I never heard this before, and like I say, I was trying to explain it out. My understanding of Tamar is it's 2 times 320, so which is din. So let's go on and let's see where we're at now. Now we're moving along. I think we talked about that. There's a little note down here on number Kaf Ches, down below. Yeah, I think we went through it up above. And so it says like this: Yarda b'yisod shelo u'miyah ka'osach u'be'etzem v'sakta osach v'asa'usa kli. So he says, Kavar Chavanu La'el, we already said about this in the Chef on Yutes, he says, as Shtei HaMahalkim Sheyesh Be'inyin Yidei Ima HaYuredes. So there's two different ways of looking at the hand of Ima, so to speak, that goes down, and in the Yisod Hanuk Umo Akos and they mash down her Besulos. The Chayaf Shaar, what is he said, Hashem and Sasan Lamdo She'en the Kavana Kapashuta, that's not really talking about what it sounds like. Shenim Shacham Yedayim Atzma, that the hands themselves come down, shall Ima the Yisod Anuk, Ela HaKavana the Atzmos Achamisha Gavuras the Ima Hadim Shachim Tochanuk Be'ez Dormita, but it's talking about that particular time when the mochin come in. I would think that was what it's talking about, that during the time of the Dormita, where the nai of Ima goes directly into the Nook. So the Beis Lechem learns it in his simple meaning. Shebizman Dormita, Kashemispashtim Anai the Ima Betochano, Boing Bidecha Be'ima at that point, Boing the Ima Mibechutz connected the Yesod Shalom from the outside, and that's got me a little thrown. I mean, thinking that's inside the Nook. He says from the outside of her Yesod, Ma'akim Masaknim Oso. So I guess you would say, like I say, I'm a little thrown by the word when he says from the outside, but it coming from Eva. That's the best I could make out of trying to think of what they could possibly mean. At any rate, it comes in it, and then it does it. He says, I didn't see two ways of that. I thought there was only one. At the time of the Dormita, he says, he learns the simple meaning, and that's the time that this is taking place. So let's go on. So now we should be on number Lamed Aleph. Up at the top it has a little intro, and it says, B'kol Laila Mistalkim B'mochim. Every night the Mochim leave. U'b'bechinis HaKli B'hanuk Tzarek L'chadesh Kol Mechadosh. You have to start all over again. So what does this mean? So let's go down to number Lamed Aleph, and we'll read the Pirush Rahut. So it says, V'hideh Gavar Yudata, Ki B'kol Yom V'yom Choshim V'histalak HaMochim V'alyonim Azun. So they leave Zud. B'kol Laila, he says, Mistalk and the Mochim Mizah. And he says, Be'ez Dormita, at the time when Zah is sleeping, when we sleep. He says, and number Lamed Bet, he says, so we know that in the nai of Ima contains the mochim that are going to go ultimately into the nook. But then now the nai leave at that time, and then when you go to sleep, or at nighttime. So he says this, that the hands of Ima come from a higher place, from the nai that came when they left, that is, when the Mochin left, Gam Haim Lamalav and Isbata L'Kli Shalo, and as a result of that, her Kli is nullified. I'm not sure I understood that exactly. Let's see what he says. No, the Shechab Mochin Mispashnim Bezer Anpin, Im Levushechem Shehem Manai the Ima together with the Levush that holds them. So when the nai leaves, which has the mochin inside of it, so the mochin leave together with his nai, clothes it. So this aspect, which is the yadayim of Ima, which has to do with the milch of the Besulim, Shemisaktim as Kli Yisod, which makes a tikkun in the Kli of the Yisod, the Nuk Mebechutz. Once again, he says Mebechutz, so it's coming from the outside and working on it. The Kevin Shekain B'Shas Adormita, so that's the case at the time of Dormita, Nisbato Klicha Yisod the Nook. It nullifies the Kli of the Yisod of the Nook. Let's go to number Lama Gimel. V'lechein anitzrikin la'asos b'kol yom tomid shtei bechino. So there's two things have to be done every single day. So one is the hamshacha at nighttime through this zivug al yedeh zivug osem b'yadayim al yonim. I'm not sure really what that means. He means there is a zivug that takes place in the yadayim. That's a simple translation of what he says. So he says there has to be a yichud before this takes place. I'm a little confused about that. So what we're trying to do is prepare the nook for yichud, but in order for the shefa to come, there has to be some yichud before that. That's what it sounds like to me. So this is for the second bechina. Shehi sha'acher kach v'zivuk hayom tuchul la'avos man v'litzayer vlados. She's able to do what? She's able to be ma'alaman. What does being ma'alaman do? Brings down mad. V'litzayer l'doros kanizka. Now let's see what he says more about this. See if I can understand it better. Bezecher b'vur ma'du tzarek l'sakem as klicha yisod the nuk mechadish b'kol yom v'yom. Why? We don't have to do that. The lachash is not complete yisod shal and the keva, but be a rishona. So after the first be a rishona, that opening is open. Shuv nishan besukun l'kol yemei chayeho. So she's ready to become impregnated from then on. So what's the difference between that? And now we're talking about this yichud in olam atzilus. So therefore, and just remember that back before he was talking about a yichud in this process taking place in a rich. So that needs a lot of explanation if you're going to say that with the concept of this word tamar. But let's go on. So according to what's been explained, this is what you can understand. The kaven, wherever the kaven should call laila b'eish is talking amochim min anuk. There's no longer a kli. So apparently it has to be an active process where the etzba or the yadayim of ima are penetrating into the nook, or he says from the outside, and they work on the besulim. So therefore every night you have to renew the kli of your yisod, because the yisod disappears. If you don't have that relationship, then your yisod goes. The hainu, that is to say, lahamshech la, as yedei ima, so you have to bring down the yadayim of ima again. She yisaknam as clearly so, you have to do it again. Kedei shetuchul l'macher beziviv the chakras, lalos mayim the zer anpin, to bring aman the zer anpin, which will produce the shefa that was necessary for it later. And then be able to get the back end of that. The tipas amad, they're going to have their anpin, v'litzayir havlad karoi, and to farm up the vlad in the proper way. Now Lamed Dalet goes on another little piece, and so let's go back and let's see if we could pick up something here. So we have let's go over two notes. We have let's see, where Kaf Zion, I missed Kaf Zion, but we'll get it now. So let's see. Here we go. 1 second. Okay, so he said, Mikol Shekain Shagam HaYadayim De'ibach HaB'Shem Yosef Gavocha Min Hanai, which are higher than a level of Hanai. Sheyistalku Gam Heim Lamala Ben Isbata L'Kli Shalo, and they will nullify her Kli. Lahabes Lachem Yehuda, Shehuva the Elin Oz Kof Hes. We talked about this before. Hakavana Kepeshuta, the Kavana is really the simple meaning. Shekhem D'Ranai, they even mistalkim, Kol Shekhem Shechak Yadayim Shalom mistalkim, says the Mochem leave, the Yadayim leave as well. What is he talking about with the Yadayim? He says the Mochem are not the Yadayim. He says the Yadayim, is mashma that the Yadayim is the Nai itself. What is the Nai? The Nai is the covering that holds the Mochem within it. But the covering itself is an aspect of Ima. So he said, "Chavel Hashem and Sasan v'Chayaf Shaar Shalom Shar Yadayim Hamuros Kan Hey Megavur Shemekabelas Me'ima." That what are the Yadayim? So we had said this previously, but he says that's actually a machlokas. The machlokas is that the Shem and Sasan, etc., they hold that the Gavuros are the Yadayim that we're talking about are the 5 Gavuros that are placed inside. Placed Shemekabelas be'ima, that she receives from the ima. Hakavanot shekasher ha'memochel shebenai the ima mistalken. So when those mochin leave, mistalken the mochin afa gavuras mispashtim, so the gavuras also leave. So she's empty. She has nothing to mold herself, and she's empty. Is she going to go back to becoming a basula again? We actually really talked about this elsewhere. This idea here. Okay, now we're going to a new one. This one, Haziva Dalada Mechadesh as Kli HaYisod Shal Hanuk. It renews the Kli of Yisod of the Nuk. He says that's the Ziva Galayla. Shal Hanuk V'chein as the Deshama Sha'alu Sham, and also the Deshamas that went up at that time, or perhaps he means entered at that time. So what is he talking about? So he says number Lamadalin. Here we will do the one at the bottom. He says, so that's the said situation. What's this? Because the Zivug Galayla is not going to bring out Neshamas Chadashas. Because there's no Kli yet. You have to make the Kli before you can bring in Neshamas Chadashas. But it's good enough, it helps to be able to mechadish the old yeshamos. Now, this whole subject is something I would like to know more about. Which is the similar to her kli, because it also becomes renewed at that yichud that takes place at night. And b'pasach hazer shel baruch shem kavod malchuso lo lo boed. Now, what is that? Let me read that again, because I'm not really 100% clear. So he said, "Kedugmas hakli sheba shegam hu nischadesh ater bezivuk shal halayla," because the kli is also mischadesh, as we know. But pasuk hazechav shal baruch shem kavod malchus l'olam. What actually does this is that when you say that has to do with the Kriya Shema, I think when you say baruch shem kavod malchus l'olam shal Kriya Shema, yeah, as we understand when you're saying that, you bring it into motion. Let's see what it means. Nimshach hazivuk ana'azah b'layla. Ein moil lo aledas neshamas hadashos. Now the whole concept of neshamas hadashos, I'm not sure what he wants to say. Neshamas means a new penimius. That's what I would say. Just me say that. So it means neshamas hadashos. So he said v'shum shahu zivug debir rishona she'ein b'kochel l'holid neshamas hadashos, because therefore at that time you're not really renewing this concept neshamas hadashos. Like I say, for me, I would like to know what he means by neshamas hadashos. Maybe we'll find something out here. He says v'keven she'ein sham daim b'chinas kli, because there's no kli yet. The b'koach zivug zeh rak l'chadesh as a neshamos. All you could do here is renew the neshamos yeshana shenoldu k'var b'layla shenoldu k'var that were already born out. Now here he's touching out the idea of this yichud with neshamas chadashos. And neshamas yeshana, but there's some older neshamas that were already born. Rak lechadesh and neshamas yeshana shenoldu k'var b'layla al olaman. And at nighttime, what happens to them? They go from the bottom to the top, which is my nukvin, the yisod the nuk, into the yisod of the nuk. Kamavur bereish adrush. We talked about this at the beginning. He said, so this zivug that we're taking place in here, there's a shefa and ha'ara. He said the secondary light. So now that we see that the yisod is mechadish because there's a yichud taking place, gam haneshamos mischadshos b'tosefes koach v'ha'ara, through the fact that there's the koach of this radiance that's coming to them. Now, I'm not really 100% sure about what I'm getting here, so let's go on. Maskavanas and zivug the zoom the bia rishona, so that's what we're talking about. Mekuvane be'ez amiris boch shem kavod malchus alon vawed, that you say v'kriya shemal alamita. At that time, you should have this kavana shalmita. Achein mekuvanim kain al shem asi the haloch hazivug atzva na'asa rak la'achar mekan b'chatz salayla. It's only going to be made after that at Chatzos Salayla. And I think there's a lot of questions in this little piece right here. And let's see if we have something behind us. There is no shefa on this particular piece. We got it on the previous one. And so we'll look at this maybe again. We're going to start this again tomorrow with God's help, and that's the share for today. Thanks, Rebbe. Call to.